Dying Hope versus Living Hope. Somebody asked the question. What's up, Jen? Jen asks, did it teach you discipline? Are you talking about rest, Jen? Appreciate you as always tuning in to the show. I'm assuming she's asking about rest.
Rest.
Does it
Hmm.
teach us discipline? Maybe the trust or faith. What would you say generally in answering that? What's your thoughts around does this teach you discipline the rest?
Yeah, because uh, keep the Sabbath is a commandment. But that's the commandment we just kind of throw out the window. Everything else we can kind of, we kind of like,
Yeah,
yeah, no
yeah.
lying. We're not going to
Don't murder,
kill.
right?
Don't do that. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. But keep the Sabbath and keep it holy. One is not something that, but it's a commandment. But we overlook that one. And so, yes, it teaches you discipline, just like these other internal boundaries that we have with ourselves. Like, I'm not going to kill someone. I'm not going to sleep with somebody else's spouse. I'm not like we have these internal boundaries as Christians. And so, why is rest that one thing that we keep stepping over the line with? And so, it does teach you discipline once you think of it like this is actually part of the commandments that we're supposed to be following if we say we love God.
Yeah, and like you talked about that in your blog as well, and just the fact that Jesus rested, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like that's what always hits me when I'm struggling with resting. And again, I'm just being real. My main struggle is like I don't know what to do. Like you said, I am a simple person. At the end of the day, like for me, I like winning stuff. I'm just gonna be
Mm-hmm.
real. If you gamify something, I like winning awards at work. When I was in elementary school, I still got all the awards I won. Like winning stuff makes everything worth it to me. So it's like because I like tangible, like if I give something my time, I like to be able to quantify that it was worth it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where I have struggled, and I'm saying struggle as a necessary struggle because this is something I've been intentionally working on at the same time, but I'm just being honest. Where I struggle is where do I find the incentive in rest? And I'm not saying that there's not incentive there. That's a rhetorical question from the standpoint of like meaning I have to change how I'm looking at an incentive. Whereas like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of my other things that I'm doing, it's a physical thing I can quantify. Whereas rest is really spiritual. It's
Mm-hmm.
like even if you look at fitness or health, it's like rest. Like you need to rest more. And when I read
Yep.
that, I'm like, all right, what's more? Is it an hour? Is it doing nothing? So it,
Yeah.
it can be a tricky thing. I think that's why people might struggle with and like you said, skip past the commandment because I don't think we ever stop too often to actually figure out how do I apply this particular commandment.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us, like, from your perspective, and it's just an example, this might look different for a lot of people. What does rest even look like in your mind?
Yeah. And it is going to look different for a lot of people. Um, it is something that is fighting against productivity for you. That's the simplest form of it. And so for me, that looks like not checking my email first thing in the morning, not looking at Instagram first thing in the morning, but trying to, and I'm saying trying because it's a fight, um, to do something that's fighting against productivity. So that means I'm going to sit, I'm going to make my London fog, and I'm doing slow things and I'm going to read a book. I'm going to have a slow start to my day because it fights productivity. I have so much time to be productive if God gives me grace. So I can also use some time to rest, even if it's 45 minutes in the morning. Um, because even thinking about how can you imagine? So if this is to me, like this is like it's like a metaphor or a visualization of you waking up and the first thing you start doing is like a whole bunch of pull-ups because you're like, oh, gotta be productive. So that's like what you're doing to your body. So like when you're thinking about your mind,
Right.
why do you start at a 10? And
Yeah.
another thing, I do a lot of scaling with myself and with my clients because it helps to put things in perspective. And so you already know that your day, especially with people like you have a job, let's say you have a spouse, let's say you have children, whatever it may be, you already know that most of the time you're going to be heightened throughout your day at some point. Like
Facts.
something's going to happen. And so if we can just start our day at a 2, that means that we'll probably get up to a 7. Like that's the highest, and that's not the worst. But a lot of times we start at a 5, and then now we're at a 10, and we're ruining things. Like when we come home,
Yeah.
like you're mad at people, you talking to people crazy, and because you started your day at a 5. But if you could consciously think like, how can I start my day at a 2 today? Like what would that look like? Am I going to take a walk and just breathe? Like what is it? And so scaling it, I think, is a big thing that can help us all to fight that productivity and to rest as well.
Slowing it down. I like that. Like that's it's this weird. I don't know. I got this thing that I say to myself in my head randomly sometimes, like slow it down. Like it's a way that I say slow. It's really dumb, but
No, I
I
love it.
think I think that's valuable, especially for me because you said doing things that fight productivity. Like that is just yeah, I just feel like you punch me in the stomach on that one because at the end of the day, like I said, I am so like
Mm,
centered around being productive. I don't know why. It's probably like some if you go through I'm sure there's reasons,
mm-hmm,
right? Like I can
for
pull
sure.
some stuff through my childhood of like why do you want to be so productive or whatever. But just finding comfort and peace in doing those things that fight productivity, like that's something I'm gonna take away from this conversation for myself of like, yo, just fight it. And so as an example for me, I've been mostly off social media for about 6 to 8 weeks now, right?
Mm-hmm,
And like you said, it's just like I was finding myself like, and I've been like a person that like have boundaries with scrolling and stuff like that. So I barely scroll my timeline, but it's
mm-hmm,
just like I'm like I just waste random time. Like even me and my brothers and friends, they sending me funny videos and stuff. I'm like I just waste a lot of times, and I'm doing that first. So like you
mm-hmm,
said, I think it's like finding purposeful things that you can do to rest. Because
mm-hmm.
as we're having this conversation, you said some things. Read a book, you know, drink some hot chocolate or something, later
Mm-hmm.
relax, stretch. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we just have to be purposeful. At least in my mind, it's like I want to be productive. So I almost have to view resting as like be purposeful with your rest. Cause I'm gonna
Yeah.
be honest, in saying all of that to say, I think what I really struggle with rest is that I sometimes don't see the line between resting and wasting time is a blur for me. And I don't
Mm,
like to waste time. So,
mm-hmm.
um, but doing things to fight productivity, I'm definitely going to take that away from this. That was dope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people look at rest as a waste of time. Um, and so we can just name everything that's a waste of time then. Like if we really want to, but it's something that you need, and that's what God said. He said that this is an offer, and the truth is it doesn't sound like you're not going to get into heaven if you don't rest. But I was speaking somewhere, and the thought came to me that rest here on earth is you operating in his grace, and then rest in heaven is you operating in his glory. And so either way, for us to fall short of his grace because we are too prideful to do that, that's hurting us. Like
Facts.
I don't think he's gonna kick you out of heaven if you don't rest. However, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. And you know what? And there's, for me, right? Like,